Look, have you ever wondered what it would be like if 2K had competition in the basketball games landscape? Have you ever wondered, man, what classic games did I miss out on? Well, I'm here for you, man. It is your boy Cheap Ludes, and I'm going to be counting down the best basketball games of all time and ranking them. Let's talk about the classifications. Any of those people out there who regularly watch my channel, which I'm sure is about 99.7% of the people that are going to view this video, you guys kind of know my ranking systems at this point. But I changed it up a little bit, so let's go through it. Near perfect / classic. Now, these are the top tier of basketball games, often regarded as either classics or like near perfect basketball games that are basically universally loved. Next, great, but not quite classic. You're going to find some of my personal favorites in here, but I don't think too many people are going to disagree with this one, but it is what it is. Just solid. It's just solid games. Pretty okay, nothing to write home about. Either maybe they just weren't as influential as the guys up ahead, or maybe they just were like pretty good. I don't know. Mid-grade. I personally love mid-grade. All things mid-grade. I love it. These games are just kind of there. You know what I mean? Playable. Now, they're not quite trash. They are playable. Maybe they're not really that good. But at the same time, like, they're solid enough. And I'll talk about each and every one of them and why they are in each of their categories. Trash. Just straight trash. These games are just bad. Straight up. They're not good. They're bad. But they're not the worst. How did this release? I don't really need to explain this one. This is for the worst of the worst. The worst offenders on this list will be down below in the how did this release category. And I'll talk about them. So let's get started. NBA 2K3. Now, fun fact, this is back when Sega made it. I know. They weren't always 2K Sports back in the day. Specifically in the early 2000s, late 90s to early 2000s, you really saw, like, in addition to multiple studios producing not even just basketball games, but like sports games in general. By the way, I would put it solid. Very solid game. Kind of one of the games that put 2K Sports on the map as far as the game series, not the development team. But not only did you see individual studios have multiple sports titles back in the day, so like THQ had one, like Sega had one, obviously like the EA Sports NBA Live team had one, etc. 989 Sports. You also saw consoles have console-specific titles for various sports games. Before 2K3, obviously it was Sega Sports, so all the 2K from 2K, which was 2K because it was 2000, get it? They had another series before that, 2K1. They were on the Dreamcast. And you also started to see like Microsoft had one, PlayStation had one, etc., etc. Honestly, I kind of wish we could go back to that. Because all that competition, granted, it produced some like pretty trash games. At the same time, it forced these development studios to try to make their game better, which we don't see anymore with 2K and Madden, and even to a certain extent, San Diego. I think it's like, what is it? San Diego Studios, whoever makes MLB The Show. The lack of competition kills the game. That's why we've had the same Madden for the last 15 years. You know what I mean? Backyard Basketball 2004. Cover star Tim Duncan. Solid. Solid. I would say it is better than... no. No. All right. Backyard Basketball 2004. By the way, Tim Duncan was on like a bunch of Backyard Basketball games, by the way. He was like the official mascot of Backyard Basketball, which is just the most Tim Duncan thing possible. I want to know what Tim Duncan's like outside of his Tim Duncan public persona, because I feel like he is pretty cool. Like, outside of that whole, like, I'm Tim Duncan, big fundamental persona, I feel like he's pretty tight, but this game was sick. Still to this day, it's actually kind of fun to play, which honestly, I would put it ahead of NBA 2K3 for that reason. NBA 2K3 is not fun to play to this day. NBA 2K3, when it came out, incredible game. I would say it was probably the best basketball game for simulation on the market when it came out. That's why it's in the solid. And it's the last one Sega produced, which I think is cool. But Backyard Basketball is still actually fun. First off, shout out to my man Kenny Kawaguchi. All right, he was in a wheelchair, and he could dunk. And had the wettest three ball in the game. I know a lot of people talk about Pablo Sanchez. I believe that was his name. I'm going to check that real quick because I'm not entirely sure. But Kenny Kawaguchi was the guy. He was also in all of the, baseball games as well. I don't believe that they had a football. I think they might. Wait, they did. They have a hockey? That doesn't make sense. It wouldn't be in a backyard. It would be at like a local pond. Yeah, Pablo Sanchez is the one most people think of when they think about backyard basketball. But for my money, it was all about Kenny Kawaguchi. Kenny Kawaguchi was sick. Also, this game, still super solid. I would play a new backyard basketball if they went back to the old format. I would. With the old characters, absolutely I would play it. Next up, we got ESPN 2K5. ESPN 2K5 was sick. I would actually drop 2K3 probably to mid-grade. 2K3 was pretty good, but it's nowhere near as good as ESPN 2K5. This introduced a bunch of new features. First off, it's not the first game with the ESPN branding. That would actually go to 2K4, but they had an overhauled franchise mode or seasons mode, which was pretty good at the time. You could play pickup basketball in a driveway hoop, which I think was really tight. And honestly, in 2005, or 2004 technically, this was the most refined NBA gameplay with some of the best graphics we had ever seen in regards to simulation. Look, it's not the best game from 2004, 2005, but it is, I should say it's not the most fun, but it's the best game from that era. You know what I mean? That makes sense? NBA Street Volume 3, mid-grade. It might move up. Street V3, you know what? Street V3 was okay. I would put it in solid. It's decent. It was kind of a low point for the series at the time. I mean, it was pretty good, but it was nothing crazy. The gameplay still kind of holds up a little bit. The dunk contests are really fun to do. They added props. Well, they added the dunk contest in the first place, and then they added the ability to, throw props in the mix. So you could throw, a table or, a DJ booth in there, and you could dunk over them. That was sick. The roster of characters wasn't as creative as it was in 2 and 1. A lot of returning faces, but even the new guys weren't really that crazy. Overall, pretty good experience, but it pales in comparison to the other two, and for that reason, I would put it in solid. NBA 2K18. I know this is going to rub people the wrong way because they're like, well, no, 2K18 is the worst game ever made. It's not. It's playable. You can play the game. Yes, it is a bad 2K title. It's a bad recent 2K title, for sure, yes. Is it, more playable right now than 2K3? Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, it's playable. It's not trash. It's not how did this release. It's just, not very good. You know what I mean? It's playable. By the way, I am incorporating legacy to a certain extent and playability and stuff like that, but I'm trying to factor everything in when it comes to these games, because if I was just which games are fun to play, 2K3 would be down here. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to incorporate how good they were at the time, because as you guys kindly remind me all the time, I am A, old as dirt, and B, I have a wealth of NBA knowledge from the early 2000s, and I played a lot of these games for various reasons, some of which I'm not going to specify. I also got some NCAA games in the mix too. NBA Ballers, great, but not quite a classic. We live the life, the crowd life, the life, blah, blah. Where you at? Ballers! Classic. NBA Ballers was sick. If you do not know the concept of NBA Ballers, essentially, you had a character, and you could also use other NBA players as well. And then you would go to the homes of other NBA players in kind of a boss system that was 7 games. It's kind of 7 games boss, 7 games boss, blah, 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 blah. You would go to the homes of NBA superstars and you would play them 1v1 in their own backyard. I do not remember if you owned the home after defeating them or any of that stuff. I don't really think that was in the mix, but NBA Ballers was sick. B, great soundtrack with an actual song that was an intro for the game that was created specifically for the game, which was tight. Stephon Marbury was on the cover. Super sick. This game was actually fun. Now, gameplay-wise, still kind of playable today. It's not the greatest. It's a little clunky, I'll be honest. But NBA Ballers was solid, and it's still, a pretty good game. Don't let its, very subpar sequels that I will talk about later fool you. NBA Ballers itself was good. The gameplay was fun. It's got a nice one-on-one gameplay. It's overall pretty solid. If you go watch YouTube videos, it still doesn't look terrible. For a PlayStation 2 era game, it doesn't look horrible. It doesn't at all. and it was overall kind of fun. There was like a juice system, like a kind of a turbo system. You could break the backboard, which is always tight. They had some sort of game breaker system, which I don't quite remember how that worked. I would have to remember, or I'd have to like play it again, which I do have a copy back there somewhere, by the way. But they had some type of game breaker system. Either way, the game was really tight. They had a game point system, like games were like to 21. Stuff was tight. I like to boom with Darius Miles in street clothes. I just want to put that out there. Super tight. NBA Jam. Now, this is the NBA Jam from 2011. The kind of weird reboot / remaster they did. It was like an arcade title. I would put it in solid. It was overall really good. I mean, it was very similar to the original NBA Jam, just with updated characters and rosters. And some of the kind of hidden, quote-unquote, unlockable characters were still in the game, which I think was huge for NBA Jam. You could still hoop with Bill Clinton, which I think was pretty tight. I believe Barack Obama was in the mix. I believe George W. Bush was in here. Was Mitt Romney in the game? Let me go ahead and do a little double check on that. See what my man... there's no way Mitt Romney was in here. There's just no way, dude. There's no way, dude. All right, hold on. Let me see what's up. Like, cause there's no possible way Mitt Romney was in the mix out here, right? Hold up. Okay, I believe that he may have been. It might have just been Clinton. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to come back to that because I'm very curious to see exactly who was in this game. I can't find it anywhere. Okay, this is painful, dude, because I like really... Here we go. Unlocks the Democrats, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton. Yes, Hillary Clinton. John McCain, Sarah Palin, George Bush, and Dick Cheney. Awesome. You could also unlock the Beastie Boys and J. Cole and the Ninth Wonder, which I don't know what that is. Okay. There's also mascot teams. Unlock the hosts of ESPN Sports Nation, Michelle Beadle and Colin Coward. Team Sprite, Team Jordan, and Team Adidas? Okay. All right. This game was sick. Solid. Gameplay was great. Still holds up today. It plays just like old school NBA Jam with a little bit more polish on it. I would say it's not quite as fun as old NBA Jam, especially if you have one of the arcade one-up machines. They're really tight. My dad has like one and is very obsessed with it currently. Just because I think the older players make the experience better personally, but this game is still overall solid, and I would say like gameplay wise is the best game in the solid category. NBA Street Home Court, straight trash. It is not a how did this release. They tried, but it sucked. This game single-handedly killed EA Sports big. It was that bad. People hated it so much at the time. And look, you're going to see a trend on this list. When Carmelo Anthony is on the cover of things, they typically are really tight. This is the notable exception. This game sucks so bad. It took all my hopes and dreams and aspirations, and it took them, and it stepped on them, and it crushed them. I would rather listen to this all for one, I swear, single cassette that I bought for 25 cents. Yeah, you got that at home? I don't think so. For 6 days in a row on loop, then play NBA Street Home Court for 1 hour. It sucks so bad. Next up, we got NCAA March Madness 2004. Great, but not quite classic. Once again, it's got Carmelo Anthony on the cover. This is the NCAA game people think of when they think of NCAA March Madness video games. This game was absolutely great. Does it hold up today? To be honest, a lot of the EA Sports titles from this era in regards to basketball do hold up pretty well because it was more of an arcade type experience. That's why you'll see games like, NCAA March Madness 04 and like another game we'll talk about later. Gameplay wise, if you go back and play them, it's really not that bad. Same if you want to talk baseball, it's similar with like All-Star Baseball 05 still plays pretty decent because it's a little bit more arcadey than a lot of the other experiences on offer around that time. That's why ESPN 2K5 doesn't really play that great. Same with like 2K3. They went more simulation with it. EA kind of still, in a very Madden way, kept it a little bit arcadey. And that allows it to still be kind of enjoyable almost 20 years after it released. You know what I mean? 2K21, mid-grade. It's better than 2K18. I mean, obviously it plays better than 2K3, but I think 2K3 was still tighter than it. 2K21's not very good. If we're talking next gen's like trash. And I'm not just talking my team, you know what I mean? I'm trying to encompass the game as a whole. Obviously, like 2K3, these older 2Ks didn't have my team. I believe my team was introduced in either 13 or 14. I can't remember. I believe 13, though, because I think I played it on 360. And honestly, the game just isn't very good. You know, the no upgrades to the franchise, or, you know, my GM, I think it's called. Yeah, whatever. No upgrades to that. My player's kind of stale. Nobody likes Park on next gen. For that reason, current gen's okay. I mean, I would probably put it in like the solid category, I guess, but it could just be recency bias. I would put it in the mid-grade tier. NBA Ballers Chosen 1. I bet half of you did not realize this game existed, because you know what? I had no idea before doing this list that this game even existed. When I saw it on Google while I was looking up pictures of the other two NBA Ballers titles, I thought this was a fan-made fake thing. I did not think this was real. No, turns out this is a real game that came out in 2009, and it is absolutely horrendous, apparently. This is one of the only games on this list that I personally have not played because I did not know it existed. But I'm going to take everybody else's word for it and say that this is garbage. Straight up. It is worse than NBA Street Home Court? I almost said Homecoming. That's what the next one should be called. It's worse than that. It looks bad. It has Dwight Howard on the cover. That should tell you all you need to know about the gameplay. ESPN 2K4. Solid. It's probably the overall least solid game on this solid tier, but it's better than 2K3, and in a lot of aspects, better than 2K21. I know like younger people are going to watch this and be like, no way, dude, those games they don't play good. The graphics suck. I know. It's not what we're talking about here. Anyways, this was the first 2K title to drop the Sega moniker and add the ESPN basketball moniker. You'd see that throughout all their sports games for a 2-year period. Honestly, I personally wish they would have kept doing this. I think the ESPN branding was really tight, and it produced 2 of the best games in the series. And we really wouldn't see the 2K franchise put out a good experience like this until years later after these 2. And these 2 were highly regarded games at the time. They're great. 2K5 was obviously a little bit better, but ESPN basketball, aka 2K4, was a massive step up for the franchise as a whole, and the cause and effect of ESPN 2K4 coincided with 2 of the best basketball games of all time in 2005, for being honest. So, how many of my old heads out there know about this one? ESPN NBA 2 Night. Trash. There's a reason you've never heard about this game. It's bad. First off, it has Alonzo Mourning on the cover. Not a good sign. It's still probably better. Like, I think NBA Ballers Chosen 1 probably is more fun than this game, but if we're talking about like how good they were when they came out, this is still slightly better. People did play this game. This game got literally barred from people's memory. Crazy. Next up, I kind of cheated with this one, I'll be honest. It's really old and also not technically an NBA game. That would be Rap Jam. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's for the Super Nintendo. There's no NBA players, but you can hoop with the likes of Flava Flav, Queen Latifah, LL Cool J. You get where I'm going with this. It was essentially a very terrible basketball game where you got to play as 90s rappers. Early 90s rappers. No, you're not hooping with Eazy-E out here. All right, Ice Cube is not throwing it down. This is like not the rappers you want to play as. Next up, we got Mba09 the Inside. Now, this is another game that I feel like a lot of people don't know existed. If you're not familiar, San Diego Studios, the studio that has basically been the only people to work on an MLB game since 2011, the show studio actually had a basketball game in 2008, so for the 08-09 season. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. I would put it in the playable. It was rough, for sure. I remember being excited about this because, you know, their MLB series was really, really good. Their series has probably been the best baseball game. All-Star Baseball was my personal favorite of the franchises. I believe All-Star Baseball, I think that became 2K Baseball. I think they got bought out. I'm not sure, though. I have to look into that. I will do a baseball one, by the way, on my second channel. If you guys want that, comment down below. But NBA 09, the gameplay was rough, but San Diego Studios knows what they're doing, and I feel like if they had continued to make basketball games, they would provide us with such a wonderful My Team-like mode. It's just a shame that nobody bought this. Also, it was PlayStation exclusive, so that basically just like halves the amount of people that are going to play this game in the first place. NBA 2K Playgrounds 2. Now, this game sucked. Let's keep it 100. It's bad, but it's playable. It's not as bad as Street Home Court. It is definitely not as bad as NBA 2 Night. By the way, this was the first game to have the ESPN moniker. And, sorry, I'm talking about NBA 2 Night. And there is a reason that they had to take a few-year break between this, because this came out in 2001 or 2002, I can't remember, and 2K4, because this game was so bad. NBA Playgrounds 2 is a fun enough experience. It's just, this is the first official NBA 2K Playgrounds. The first NBA Playgrounds was actually an independent project, and I would put it in the mid-grade category. Very arcadey, very wannabe NBA Jam, but with a little more realism. Then they got bought out by 2K, and 2K just monetized it into the ground, and it was pretty bad. First one's pretty decent, though. I like the art style. I don't know why, but I do. NBA 2K10, very solid. This is one of my personal favorite 2Ks. This was the one that really got me into 2K. Like, I played these two back in the day, ESPN Basketball and ESPN 2K5, but I didn't really become a loyal 2K player until the late 2000s. I always played NBA Live. I like this one a lot, but its 2005 counterpart for NBA Live is, yeah. 2010, though, well, technically 2009, 2010, 2K10 was great. NBA Live had been falling off at this point, so we all kind of expected 2K to just kind of coast and then just put out mediocre game, mediocre game, mediocre game, similar to how, you know, kind of Madden did before it actually took over as the number one. Obviously, ESPN 2K5 football came out and kind of killed that, but before that, that's kind of what they did. But 2K10 took a very noticeable step forward, and it was great. I mean, the gameplay was good. The game was more realistic and more simulation-based. The graphics looked significantly better than anything else on offer from NBA Live at that time. It's good. It's a good game. I believe they were the only basketball game, I believe, in 2010, which is crazy that they made such a good game. NCAA March Madness 2007. This has Addison. This has Adam Morrison. I almost said Addison Morrison. Adam Morrison on the cover, but it's still playable. The NCAA series, really, really good. Really underrated series. I would probably put it in playable, though. This one was okay. I played it. It's just like, there's nothing really special here. It's just kind of exactly what we had been getting for a few years. That was kind of EA's playbook at the time. If you remember playing Madden 05 to like, kind of now, but more so like 2010, it was basically the same game. EA does this thing with Madden specifically where for a 5-year span, they'll basically give you the same game with like one feature that they already had in previous Maddens, just kind of added on, and then they'll reset and they kind of do that again. That's what they did with NCAA 07. So it was definitely a worse experience than like, you know, 2004, the Apex, I would say. NBA 2K13, near perfect / classic. This game was great. I might drop it lower because I think there's a couple NBA 2K titles that deserve to be higher than it. But this game, you're not going to hear too many people really complain about this one. This one was one of the best 2Ks we ever got. The introduction of the My Team mode was huge. I mean, other games had done the card collecting mode before, so it wasn't a new idea by 2K. This is before it was aggressively monetized. It was nearly not monetized at all, I believe. 2K13 or 2K14. Can't remember when they introduced the monetization, but this game was great, dude. It was. It played smooth at the time. Now, I'll be honest. How much of how good is this game is A, nostalgia, and B, there being absolutely no other basketball games available on the market, so this is basically all we had. And we hadn't gotten to the point where we were used to that yet, so 2K automatically gets flack because of that. So I don't know. I went back and played it not too long ago with some buddies, and it was still pretty smooth. It wasn't bad at all. 2K's gameplay really hasn't changed all that much since then. NBA Courtside 2000 starring Kobe Bryant. Trash. It's not quite how did this release, because it's just very, very mediocre. But it was not really playable at the time. And yeah, trash is appropriate. NBA Live 2008. Trash. This is the first game where I was like, okay, NBA Live sucks now. This game sucks. This sucks. I'm mad. This is not good. There's another game on this list that people regard as being bad, but it was actually pretty okay and in some ways a step up for certain features. This was a step down for almost everything. Once they hit the 7th generation, I believe it's the 7th generation, PS3, Xbox 360, right? I'm not sure. I don't know what happened to EA once they got on these consoles, but the minute they got onto Xbox 360 and PS3, started NBA Live 06, their games just progressively, well, first they went, and then they went up a little bit, and then they went all the way down, and they just continue to keep falling down. It's honestly kind of impressive. This game sucks. I would play NBA Street Home Court over NBA Live 08. NBA 2K17. As great of an experience as it is, I don't think it's quite a classic game mode. Just a classic game in general. I think it's really good, but I think we have our nostalgia goggles on a little heavy about 2K17 in general, just because of how bad 2K's been since that game. We all just think it was the greatest game ever made, but I don't even think it's the best 2K from this era, personally. PlayStation 2 Street Hoops. Love it. Mid-grade. It's not that good of a game, but the premise is awesome. You go around, you play street hoops against people, very similar to NBA Ballers, with a little bit more on the street. You can't play basketball on like an egg crate and plywood, which I thought was kind of unfortunate because they did tease that in the trailers originally, and that would have been pretty sick. But I played this game a lot. You could bet money and play against people. This game was tight. This game was super sick. Honestly, I would love a Street Hoops like reboot. I would love it. That would be great. NBA Live 16. It's, you know what? It is playable. As much as I want to say it's trash, it's not very good. I will say that. And I'll put it in trash. It's not good. ESPN. 2K Sports. NBA 2K9. Solid. Very solid. This is the game that really like kind of... No, you couldn't play like any defense. I'd put it like mid-grade. It was a pretty good sports title. It definitely killed NBA Live 09. NBA Live 09 was terrible. This game was like pretty good. And when you put them next to each other, it makes this game look like it's godly. It's just like pretty mediocre and pretty solid. You know what I mean? It still like holds up kind of good though. The rosters are great. But literally like every shot you shot in play now specifically would go in for the most part. The defense was kind of non-existent, which we'd see a lot more later on. There are definitely some flaws, but I like this game a lot. And at the time, this is specifically the game that converted me from an NBA Live player to a 2K player in the first place. Ncaa Basketball 10. Great. It's great. Honestly, it's crazy because EA made so many terrible NBA Live games, but they didn't at the same time that NBA Live was A, coming off some of the worst reviewed games of its entire lifespan, and B, getting delayed and canceled for a year. They put out an incredibly good NCAA game, and the final NCAA game. People still play this game. Like, you could go on PC and you could find people who still play this game. That's crazy. Really good. I'd probably put it in solid, though. I don't think it's quite great, but not classic. I think it's like very good. I think a lot of the love for it has to do with there aren't any additional titles after this. And Big Blake's on the cover. That's pretty sick. I would put it's the best game in solid. I think NBA Jam's right there. 2K10. Yeah, I like the way this looks right now. The Holy Grail. NBA Live 2005. In many people's minds, the greatest basketball game to ever release. Now, look, if we're looking from a simulation and a technical standpoint, ESPN 2K5 is a superior game. But if we're talking about being a video game, NBA Live 05 was the most fun I have ever personally had on a sports game, and I've went back recently to play it. I have 2 copies sitting right there. Yeah, 2. You can't see it because of my camera, but I literally have 2 copies sitting right there. NBA Live still is fun because it has that arcadey feel. It is one of the best, not even the best basketball games of all time. It is one of the best sports games of all time. NBA 2K14. 2K14 is pretty solid. Some people love it. I personally think it was a little bit of a step down from 2K13 for sure. And I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it was pretty okay, I believe. Was this the first one with my team? I honestly can't remember. I guess I could look it up, right? I'm pretty sure 2K13 had it, but 2K14 was, I mean, pretty solid. But I don't really think anything special was going on. Like, I think, is this the first one that started monetizing my team aggressively? Yeah, I think this is where they started to begin the monetization practices on my team. It was this one or 15. I think 15 is when they ramped it up. 2K14 was an okay experience. It was pretty good. I think people who play Park kind of overhype 2K sometimes. So do my team players. Yeah, we all overhype everything. I would put it in solid. I mean, if you want to argue about it, that's fine. I mean, it's not as good as 2K17 though. I'll say that. 2K15, I actually like 2K15 a lot. I would throw it in great, but not classic. I like it. It's better than 14, I think, personally. And no, it's about the same tier. They were pretty similar experiences, I think. NBA Live 15. Where's NBA Live 16 at? You know what? It is slightly better than NBA Live 16. It is. It's not great, but it's better than these games in trash tier. And for that reason, I'd put it in playable. It was very glitchy, not the greatest, but it wasn't as bad as people say. Scottie Pippen Slam City. Okay, this actually is the worst game. Like, yeah, it's worse than Rap Jam. It's for sure worse than Rap Jam. All right. So they tried to do, if you guys remember back in, well, sure most of you don't, but if you guys are aware of the video game industry's infatuation with live capture or mocap back in the day. So in the early to mid 90s, after the release of Mortal Kombat specifically, that was like the one that put it on the map. There were obviously other games before. They would basically film real life parts and then digitize it into the video game as the actual action. It was like much easier to do that. And the graphics technology just wasn't there yet for 3D gameplay. So they tried to do that with a basketball game, and I don't think I need to tell you how horrendous this game was. This game fucking sucked so bad. It may actually be the worst basketball game in existence, and that's very unfortunate because my man Scottie Pippen is the cover athlete. It's bad. Go look up gameplay. It's very bad. NBA Street. As much as I love NBA Street, I would put NBA Street in great, but not quite classic. This is the first one, by the way. It's a really fun game. The gameplay still kind of holds up. Game breakers, all that's there. You know, we had the basis of what we were going to see going forward in Volume 2 and Volume 3. It came out in 2001 and it lacks features. Fun fact, since Jordan retired in 1998, he wasn't in very many video games at all. And NBA Street was one of the most notable ones, at least that I can remember, that he was in, which was a big sell at the time. Being able to hoop with Jordan. Now, you could hoop with old Wizards Jordan, but you couldn't hoop with like primetime Jordan. And that was huge. Is it the most influential thing in the world? No. But after NBA Street, we didn't see Michael Jordan in a basketball video game for a long time. I believe 2K11 might have been the next time we saw him. NCAA 06. 06 was a pretty bad year for EA Sports. This game was just very mediocre. I put it mid-grade. It's better than 07 though, for sure. 2K16, near perfect. Better than 2K13, depends what modes you like. I would personally put 2K13 ahead of it, but 2K16 was one of the best 2K experiences we've ever gotten. Straight up. College Hoops 2K7, solid. The College Hoops franchise was very underrated. 2K7 was a very good year. It was the best college sports game that we really had available at that time, and one of the best basketball experiences in 2006, 2007. Because if I'm being completely honest, like NBA Live 2007 kind of sucked. March Madness 07 obviously sucked. It's playable, but it sucks. 2K7 wasn't really that good. College Hoops 2K7 might have been the best basketball experience we had that year. NBA Shootout 2004. Trash. First off, you're going to put my man Tracy McGrady on the cover and then make a subpar game. This was a 989 sports title. There's a reason they stopped making them after this game. Because it was bad. The audacity. Do my man Tracy McGrady like that. NBA Live 2007. Pretty mid-grade experience. It was a step up from Live 2006 for sure, gameplay-wise. It was still kind of arcadey. It was alright. It lacked some features. It had Tracy McGrady on the cover. That's cool. Literally the best basketball game to ever exist is NBA Street Volume 2. Now, if you're talking more of an NBA sense, you're going to like NBA Live. If you're younger, you're going to like 2K16, maybe 2K17, maybe even like 2K19. NBA Street Volume 2 has absolutely everything. And when I say that, I mean like it was massively popular and hyped and critically rated when it came out. The gameplay still in 2021 holds up to the point where it's actually an enjoyable experience. If they re-release a remastered version of this and you were to go play it, you would think nothing has changed in the almost 20 years since it came out. It is one of the best sports video games of all time. It just made me sad because they ended up ruining it. Street V3 isn't bad by any means, but like this game is incredible. They have my boy Whitewater in the game. They added new characters. They added, so good. So good in every regard. Just so good. NBA 2K20. It is playable. I mean, I put it mid-grade. Look, new 2Ks, they might not be very good games compared to other 2Ks. They might not be exactly what you want, but they're playable. You know what I mean? That's all you can really ask. I would put them in mid-grade, though. It's one of the worst 2Ks, I would say. But I think it's still a little bit better than 2K21. Slightly. My team is a little better in 2K21, but I think the rest of the game is better than 2K20. ESPN College Hoops 2K5. Solid. Josh Childress is on the cover, okay? That's my boy. College Hoops 2K7 was definitely better, even though JJ Redick didn't deserve to be anywhere near that cover. Who else could it have been in 2006, 2007? That's actually a good question. I'm not really sure. Just anyone but JJ Redick at that time would have been great. College Hoops 2K5 was a really fun experience, though. Same engine as ESPN 2K5, just an overall really good game. NBA 2K6 was very not good. First off, they dropped the ESPN moniker, meaning they also lost the ESPN funding, and it really did show in 2K6, the basketball game. I actually hate this game so much. I think it's one of, if not the worst games in the series. It's very bad. NBA Live 06 was also very bad, but this one was like almost worse, maybe somehow worse. I don't know. 2K7 was definitely a step up. I would actually put 2K7 in mid-grade. This is when they started to get their groove a little bit. 2K7 and 2K8 weren't the greatest. Look at, they have old man Shaq with the mustache, but honestly, pretty okay. 2K19. I think 2K19 was good. I would put it in great. I would say so. I can't say it's that much better than 2K15 and 2K14 though. For my team, it's great, but that's about it. Solid. Very good. In the Zone 98. Oh, this is one of the worst NBA games I have ever seen. Straight up. It was bad at the time. Like, at the time, these graphics were bad. At the time, the game played terrible. There's just nothing redeeming about this title. Glenn Rice is on the cover. And if you got the N64 version, pretty sure it was Chris Webber. It's not good. NBA 2K8. 2K8 was decent. I mean, I'll put 2K8 here and like 2K7 in playable. 2K8 was very mid-grade, pretty okay. NBA Ballers Phenom, playable, just not very good. I mean, I'd put it mid-grade. I think I didn't like it because they changed the formula up a little bit. Chauncey Billups on the cover is sick, but definitely not as sick as Marbury in a full felt tracksuit, doing a crossover with a chain. He's just kind of in a suit holding the basketball. Cover art really should tell you all you need to know about the games right there. Good enough, though. Mid-grade. It's actually probably solid, but I'm punishing it for not being NBA Ballers. You know what I mean? 2K12, solid. Pretty good. You could argue it's great, but I don't know. I'd say solid would make sense. NBA Elite 11. How did this release? This is one of the worst basketball games I personally have ever played. I did not get a chance to really play Scottie Pippen Slam City because I was 2 when it came out. Rap Jam, I'm pretty sure I wasn't even born, or I was like 1. In the Zone 98, I didn't get a chance to pick that up. I don't know what to tell you. NBA Ballers, I didn't know that existed. NBA Elite 11, on the other hand, I played that game. It was the most horrendous basketball experience that I personally have ever witnessed. It might actually be one of the worst games I've ever played. Like, I'm not even kidding. It might be one of the worst sports experiences for sure. But straight up video games that I have ever played. NBA Hoops. It's like they wanted to be NBA Jam, but they also wanted to be MLB Slugfest, but they didn't let you like punch people in the face like you could do in MLB Slugfest or NHL Hits. There's a reason that only one of these got made. NBA Inside Drive. So Inside Drive is, I would put it in playable. It was okay. I would put it mid-grade. It was decent. Inside Drive was Microsoft's basketball game. It was exclusively on the Xbox. And it was actually pretty okay. The first 2, I believe, Inside Drive 02 and then 03. Overall, pretty solid. They took a massive step up with NBA Inside Drive 2004, though. I'm not going to put it ahead of the 2Ks, but I am very sad that Inside Drive didn't get renewed and they canceled it right after 2004. Huge bummer. I think if any NBA basketball series needs to come back, it is NBA Inside Drive. I think Microsoft should be the ones that do it because EA sucks, dude. EA's never going to do it correctly. Inside Drive, though. Inside Drive was good. 2004, it was great. I would be willing to say this was actually the best basketball game in 2003, 2004. I don't know. Maybe you disagree. Also, it did have the, I don't know, I want to say ability, but it gets ranked a little bit higher because of how good Xbox Live was too, and this was the sports game for Xbox Live as far as like basketball. You know, it's good. NBA Jam 2000, it's playable. They kind of sucked all the soul and fun. I would actually throw it in trash by Hoops. NBA Jam 99 gets playable just for having my boy, the GOAT Keith Van Horn, on the cover. Still not very good though. Classic NBA Jam, near perfect. Classic. It's NBA Jam. Need I say more? I don't think so. I'm going to move one of these 2Ks up. I just don't know which one yet. Probably 2K12. Bill Laimbeer's Combat Basketball. Did you know this existed? Look, I feel like if you were an above average NBA player in the late 80s, early 90s, you got a shitty video game at some point. And this one was horrible. It was essentially what Slugfest tried to be later on, or I should say successfully became later on, or NFL Blitz. That's actually the more popular example. I don't know, I didn't use that for Hoops. Anyways, it's bad. Go look up gameplay video. It's like very terrible. NBA Live 09, awful. This game was so bad that NBA Live had to take a year hiatus because of how bad this game was. It was not good. 2K9 was better in every single aspect. It's very rare when you compare 2 basketball games that one of them is better in every aspect, unless you're comparing like, you know, 2K17 to like Inside Drive 1999. But NBA Live and 2K9's better in every regard. It's actually crazy. NBA Live 18. Okay, so I think this game gets a lot of flack, and I don't think it's actually that bad. I think it was like not very bad at all. I would put it like mid-grade. They had some good ideas. EA hadn't gotten to the point where they were going to monetize it to death yet because they were still trying to gain fans, so it was still like pretty okay. Gameplay was like not very good though. NBA 2K11 is the best NBA 2K of all time. Fight me in the comments. I don't care. Maybe I was super hyped because you got to use Jordan. I don't know. It was great though. Maybe I was also hyped because the Bulls were really good that season, so I played it a lot more. It's possible. We'll never know. NBA Live 19. It's actually not that bad. I would throw it in mid-grade too. Like, it's playable. I know you're looking at 2K20 and 2K21 and being like, those should not be on the same tier as NBA Live 18 to 19. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But 2K20 and 2K21 are closer to NBA 19 and NBA Live 18 than they are to 2K19 and 2K17. Yeah. That's some hard truth, but it's real. You know what I mean? I would probably put NBA in, one of these. 19 was actually not that bad. I put NBA Live 18 down in playable, probably. I'm going to drop NCAA March Madness down here as well. Like I said, pretty good game, just not that great. NBA Inside Drive was sick. NBA Live 06 was playable, but not good. Especially if you had the Xbox 360 version. That one was absolutely horrendous. Like I said, it's better than 2K6, though. That I can say. But having such a step down from NBA Live 06, like NBA Live 05 was so much better that when we got this the next year, it was pain. It's kind of like 2K17. And then we got 2K18. You just didn't know how good you had it playing NBA Live 05. And at this point, there wasn't online servers and stuff like that. So when NBA Live 06 happened, you could edit pretty much everything in NBA Live 05. I'm going to throw this up in mid-grade, and the reason for that is they had so many customization options. And when I say that, I mean, you could turn off pretty much every foul if you wanted to. You could turn off out of bounds and start stroking from, like, literally the stands, which was pretty sick. You could also do that in NBA Live 05, but it was also just a better game in general. So, yeah. But there was no online connectivity, so if you didn't like the current sports game, because it basically just was like franchise mode and play with friends and stuff like that. If you didn't like that game, you could just go play the last year's one and change all the rosters if you wanted to. You didn't really have to like play this new one. If you didn't like NBA Live 06, you could just go play NBA Live 05. I believe that is what I did for that entire year. NBA Shootout 2000, yeah, this was very bad. 989 Sports were not on top of their game ever, but they made like 5 of these, dude. It's actually kind of crazy. Showtime NBA on NBC. This was Nintendo's, by the way. So this was the 64 had their own string of basketball games, and that was the Showtime series, and they were very bad. To be honest, the N64 never stood a chance in regards to sports titles. It just was never... I don't know what was going on there. It's probably the controller. But the sports titles outside of arcade titles like, NFL Blitz and things like that, and wrestling games. They had like a wealth of incredible wrestling games, but yeah. Not Showtime NBA on NBC. And then we got Backyard Sports 2007. The only reason I included this one is because it's the only one that I could find without Tim Duncan. I had Paul Pierce, who, not the greatest role model for children. I believe he did have to miss a few starts for getting knifed up outside of a club. So very interesting pick for Backyard Sports. But I guess it's like, is it a good inspiration to children when you poop your pants, you go back in the locker room, and then you come back out and win a championship? I actually believe that happened after this. It's backyard basketball. It's pretty good. I'd put it mid-grade. Let me know what you think of the list down below. What do you agree with? What do you not agree with? It has been your boy Cheap Ludes, and thank you for watching me do something different. Look, a lot of these games suck. A lot of these games are okay. At the end of the day, sports games are never going to be Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, okay? We have to work with what we got here. All right, we're never going to get a god-tier sports title bestowed upon us from the heavens. The closest we've ever gotten is NBA Street Volume 2, and that's just the sad, sad truth. And Skate, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Not Tony Hawk Ride, though. It's been your boy Cheap Lude. Subscribe if you want. Peace.